the chance yesterday to go and check out the new Fujifilm X Half camera. Now, this is a brand new camera from Fujifilm, new range from Fujifilm as well. And it's immediately obvious this is one of the more different cameras that I think I've ever used. Certainly a lot of interesting ideas in this camera, and it is absolutely designed to move away from tech and specs and place the experience of photography first and foremost as the most important thing when it comes to this camera. There's loads of stuff that it doesn't have deliberately to really strip things down to just being a really fun photography first camera that you are just going to be enjoying as opposed to kind of overthinking a lot of things. There's a lot of things built around it to make sure that that is the experience that you're going to have. Now, it's pretty different to most cameras out there. It's got a half sensor. So this is basically a vertical sensor. It's giving you vertical images, even when you're holding the camera traditionally landscape. And on the back of the camera, you've got a vertical LCD screen as well to kind of reflect what you're seeing. Now, this is obviously designed around social media, right? So Instagram, stuff like that, posting images online, and how we actually consume photos like this via our phone. And this is very much connected with the phone as well. So there's a lot of connectivity with the app that you can use alongside this camera. And we'll get into that in a little bit. You do have another smaller LCD screen, which Fujifilm are calling the sub screen, to the left of this vertical screen, which allows you to do things like change the film simulation modes and actually change some other effects as well. And that's really important because a lot of what this camera does is built around just always getting it right in camera. Now, to that end, you're not even able to shoot in RAW, right? So it's just JPEG, which I actually think is a really bold and interesting choice because it's all about getting those photos correct, whether that's via the stylized way you want to shoot them with the film simulations or maybe a grain effect or something like that. Everything is in camera. Maybe you're adding a date stamp, whatever it might be, you're not going to be doing it afterwards. Really, the whole idea is that you're not even editing these photos. Even in the app, there's not really anything you can do. You can stitch two vertical photos together to get kind of one more landscape style one, but that's about it. You're not going to be applying film simulation modes afterwards. Everything is done while you're taking the photo, which I think just, again, goes into the idea that this camera is all about the experience of taking those photos. And then those photos come straight off the camera and they're done. The way it controls is also super interesting as well. So there's not a huge number of buttons on this. It's actually really small as well. As you can see here, I've got it next to my phone. So you can get a little bit of an idea for the size of this camera. It's super small in the hands. And it's incredibly light as well. It's about 240 grams with the battery and SD card. So it's incredibly lightweight. It means you could absolutely pop this in your pocket if you wanted to. It just makes it so easy to take out and about, which is exactly what this camera is positioned to be, is your kind of everyday out and about fun camera. You're not going to be taking this on professional shoots. You're going to be taking this maybe when you're out for the day, right? And you want to be able to get some snaps. You want to be able to get that kind of photo. You're having fun with it. And it's priced actually at a position that makes that super accessible for pretty much everyone. It doesn't feel like this is targeted at a very specific audience. This is absolutely for, it feels everyone, right? If people who are completely new to photography, but they want a fun camera to go out and take photos with their mates. And then people who are actually maybe even professional photographers, but they want a weekend camera, right? That doesn't break the bank, is super fun. They don't have to think about changing lenses. And to that end, you've got a built-in lens on the camera. So a 32mm effective focal length. So when you talk about 35mm equivalent, you're talking about 32mm, which is pretty good, to be honest. It's a little wider than I would have liked, but you know, I'm not the only person who's going to be using this camera. And I think actually that focal length does play into this kind of single-use camera feel, which you get from this. It's nice and wide without being, you know, ridiculously wide. And it gives you some really fun framing to play around with. Again, you're not really going to be cropping. You're not going to be doing any of that. So you are pretty much just shooting 32mm. You have got a reasonably fast aperture. Actually, it'll shoot at f2.8, which is pretty good. And then you've got an aperture ring on the lens to control that, which I really like, actually. It makes it feel really nice and analog. And to that end, you can actually put this camera into a film camera simulation mode, not to be confused with film simulation, which I'll be honest with you, I did get confused about at first, but actually there's no need to be getting confused about that. In film camera simulation mode, the camera will behave like a film camera, right? So you get a really analog experience with regards to the way you're controlling it. The back screen basically turns off, so you're not reviewing those images. You're just using the OVF on the camera. right? So you can't check the images afterwards until you kind of develop the film. So you're just using that. You're using the winder to actually move the camera onto the next photo. You can use the different film simulation modes, but you really are limited to a number of shots as well. So when you set this up, you choose how many shots on your roll of film, right? You take your photos, and at the end of that, you connect the camera to your phone via the app, which is actually super easy. It wasn't available widely when we were testing it out, but I did get to look at how easy it is to connect it up as well in a kind of slightly controlled environment. But by the time the camera comes out, this will be completely available, so not a problem. But it connects, and then essentially that roll of film is developed within the app, which is kind of cool. It's one of those things that, you know, if it was on my main professional camera, this would be really annoying. But it's not. It's on a fun camera that I'm using at the weekend with my friends, or I'm using, you know, when I go traveling or something like that. And I'm not really, you know, I'm not really worried about getting that wall hanger shot. I'm taking fun shots and I'm enjoying myself. And this is actually kind of a fun way to do that. If you don't want to do it, you just don't do it. But if you do want that experience of kind of delayed gratification, which is something Fujifilm kept mentioning, which I do get, I totally get it, and really get that analog feel, basically gives you the film camera feel without the actual inconvenience of having to send off that film, and there's a chance something happens, you know, and then you have to get developed, and then it comes back and you have to wait and all that kind of stuff. You're really only waiting probably a few minutes here to develop it in the app. And then you actually get a contact sheet and then all of your images, and then you can go back through them. Now, what's quite fun about that is it does give you the feel of getting that roll of film back developed, and you actually sit and go through the photos. It's a really fun way to shoot. So you've got some cool options here, I think, for how this camera is going to operate. Other than that, you basically have a USB-C port on the side, which you can use to charge it, or I suppose connect it to a computer if you want to. A little switch next to that to control the built-in LED light as well on the front, which kind of operates a bit like a flash. That's pretty much it. The shutter button on the top, a playback button on the back. The menus are pretty much all controlled via the little touch screens. So the film simulations and the different effects are controlled on the little sub screen on the left. And then other menus are accessed on the main screen. The screen doesn't tilt or anything like that, which again, normally I'd find that slightly annoying. I actually like it here. Fujifilm have really lent into it, which I think is bold, but I think it's cool. It really differentiates the camera. It's not going to be for everyone, right? There will absolutely be a lot of people who think, no, I want the proper camera. And that's completely understandable. And actually, if you wanted a camera that feels a bit like this, but is just significantly more kind of competent, maybe even moving upwards in spec and all that kind of stuff, you've got stuff like the X100VI, which is a super good alternative if you want to spend a bit more and ultimately get a better camera. But that's not what this camera's trying to be. This camera's trying to be interesting and different and fun, apart from anything else, just really fun. So it's difficult to kind of critique the things it's missing because they're missing on purpose, and it's all built around this really fun idea, which I do think it kind of nails. Now, hopefully I'm going to get my hands on this again to really do a proper review, because I only really got to use it for a couple of hours, which is enough time to kind of get it. It's the kind of camera that once you start using it, you kind of go, okay, no, I get what this camera is trying to do, actually. And I don't want to be thinking about it in the way that I would approach, you know, reviewing something like the X-T5. That's a very different kind of camera to this one. But I'd love to get my hands on it again and really be able to maybe take it somewhere and do something super fun with it. That'd be really, really nice. I would love to hear what you think about this camera though. Let me know in the comments. Is this something that appeals to you as a kind of weekender camera, as kind of a fun everyday camera to take out and about? Let me know. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts down there in the comments. Of course, you can check out the camera for yourself, the full spec, even though it's not about spec with this one, but you can check out the full spec as well as the pricing as well. Everything you want to know by heading over to parkcameras.com, link down in the description to make that super easy. I will, of course, see you in the next video, but until then, as always, thanks for watching.